The plans to attack Pearl Harbor were fronted by Japanese battle fleet head Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto and Captain Minoru Gende. Over the next several months, pilots and submarine commanders trained in secret for a daring mission. Intelligence was gathered and a final plan was made. The Japanese attack group left northern Japan, moving 408 aircraft, 5 submarines, each carrying a midget sub, all prepared for the attack on Pearl Harbor. Emperor Hiroshito gives the battle fleet his final orders and final authorization for the attack. Yamamoto's main objective was to render the U.S. battle fleet at Pearl Harbor helpless, and thereby preventing its interference in the invasion of the Dutch East Indies and its fruitful oil reserve. December 6, 1941. The American battle fleet at Pearl Harbor was taking its ease. Rumors of war circulated, however the Pacific island was alive with culture, warm ocean breezes, and a laid-back lifestyle. The selection of admirals in Pearl Harbor were well aware of the escalating tensions between the U.S. and Japan, and feared sabotage on the fleet more than outright attack. So, in order to spot potential saboteurs, the battleships were moored side by side, and the planes wingtip to wingtip, unarmed, and in the center of the airfield. No one on the island knew what was heading toward them at that very moment, and the danger it possessed.
My name is Donald G Stratton. I was born on July 14th, 1922, and around Red Cloud, Nebraska. My battle station was a site setter and the port anti-aircraft director, which controlled the 4 5-inch anti-aircraft guns, which were fixed ammunition guns, and every shell weighed about 70, 80 pounds, I suppose. Some sailors were yelling and pointing toward Ford Island, and went to take a look, and about that time one of the planes banked and took a different position. We could see the insignia. Knew right away it was the Japanese, and I headed for my battle station, which was up on the foremost one deck above the bridge.
And then air raid sounded, and they said, oh, air raid. Man, all air raid stations, all engaged personnel, report to the 3rd deck.
We started firing at them right away. And I think we used up all of our ammunition because our gunnery officer wanted to get some more ammo, and he jumped out and went down below to see if he could get some more ammo to us, but we never did see him again. His name was Lomax.
Smoke slowly subsided, the vision of the once majestic Pearl Harbor set in. The dead were everywhere, scattered along beaches, floating in the water, burned, scarred, and barely recognizable. The U.S. fleet was damaged, ships sunk, still aflame, some even capsizing. The USS Maryland suffered only slight damage to her hull. She lost 4 men to the attack. The USS Tennessee also suffered only slight damage. She lost 5 men. The USS Pennsylvania was in dry dock during the attack and only suffered slight hull and deck damage. She lost 29 of her crewmen. The USS Utah was being used as a target ship prior to the attack. She was capsized and sunk, losing 58 of her crewmen. The USS Utah still remains at the bottom of Pearl Harbor. The USS California was sunk and later raised and repaired. She lost 105 men. The USS West Virginia was badly damaged and sunk. However, she was later raised from her watery grave and repaired. The USS West Virginia lost 106 men to the attack. USS Nevada made a run for the open channel before the Japanese tried to sink her. They came close to closing off the channel. However, the captain of the Nevada intentionally beached her, saving the channel. The Nevada lost 109 men in the fight. The USS Oklahoma was hit by a force of bombs and torpedoes. Within minutes of being hit, she flipped belly up, capsizing, taking 429 men with her. The damage, however, was not as bad as it appeared. The Japanese had dealt a blow to the U.S., but it had underestimated the will and fight of the U.S. people. They had also sunk a number of the U.S. battleships, but had not completely destroyed them. California, West Virginia, and Nevada were repaired and later joined the fight against the Japanese. The Utah and Oklahoma were not as lucky. They were a complete loss. The final ship that did not survive Pearl Harbor was the USS Arizona.
We were being dive bombed, and I could see the torpedo planes coming in from sub-base over that area in IA landing and at the battleship row there, and I seen the wakes of the torpedoes in the water, and I seen the Oklahoma capsize, and I had, we might say, ringside seat to all of that up, and I could, from up there I could see very well. And then the big bomb hit the ship, and that hit right after number 2 turret on the starboard side, and that shook the ship. I mean, that's when you shake a ship that big way, it's a pretty good shake. And then all at once, in a horrendous explosion. A million pounds of powder went up, I guess, ammunition, and like 200,000 gallons of aviation gasoline and fuel oil and whatever. I was like burned over 60% of my body. And we were just actually burning alive, but then the fireball just, after the explosion went down and the trade winds blew the smoke away, and we were able to get out on the sky control platform, and we got the attention of a sailor by the name of Joe George. I found out later his name. On the aft of the vessel was tied up her bow to our stern, and on the after deck of the vessel he threw us a heavy line, and which is a small line with a lead weight in it, and tied a heavier line on it, and we pulled it across and tied it off on the Arizona, and the 6 of us proceeded to go across that line hand over hand after we were burned. We just pulled the skin off my arms, was in the way, and just pulled it off and threw it down. We were about 40 feet in the air, and we had to go across this line about 60 feet or 70 feet, and hand over hand, and we got finally down to, when you get down to the area where the line's tied off on the other side, why it starts back uphill a little bit, you know, understand. But well, it was a tough part, the last 10 or 20 feet, and a lot of coaxing from the guys on board the vessel and to keep me moving through there, just swinging back and forth till I could get one hand in front of the other and get across, but I'm here. They treated us there at in the Naval Hospital there, and of course they had to give us morphine shots, and then they had to figure out a way to keep track of that, so some nurse figured out to use lipstick, and she'd mark on our bodies where we had a shot or when and whatever, so they could keep track, so you wouldn't get overdosed and whatever. But we were there for quite a few days, and they said, well, we're going to send a few people back to the United States. And I said, well, I'm ready to go. Said, well, we don't, maybe the next time. We don't think you can make it right now. I said, well, I think I can. So they said, well, if you can get up and while they change the linen, why, we'll take you. So I got up and stood up while they changed the linen, and then I laid back down, and then I didn't get up for quite a while. But we got back to the States on Christmas Day, 1941. I think when I was able to roll out of bed just to stand on the scale on the side of the bed I was about 92 pounds, but my hair was gone, and part of my ear was gone, but I first looked in the mirror, it was terrible, but that's the way it goes. Everybody had to be someplace, I guess.
The USS Arizona was by far the most devastating loss in the Battle of Pearl Harbor, as well as the deadliest single attack on American soil. 1,177 men lost their lives, but they are far from forgotten. Today, the USS Arizona Memorial in Pearl Harbor stands as a grave marker, a history changer, and a glimmer of hope in a hopeless world. The men who died that day will not be forgotten. They will live on in the stories of those who were there, great tales of heroic deeds and unselfish sacrifice that will be passed down to future generations. They stood for freedom. They stood for hope. We will never forget December 7th.